Chapter 466. In a state of rapid breath, Yudhir watched as the sight of the tiny light melted into the red aura that had been enveloping the vessel. Only then did he relax his muscles and lower his head. His body was drenched in sweat, as if he had never bathed at all. Yet his mood was considerably relieved. He wasn't planning to end things here. He would observe the progress and try again. As he raised his head to check on Kishir, he paused at the sight of an unexpected expression on the man's face. "Commander?" "Well, why don't you lie down for a moment?" As if he had been waiting for this moment, Kishir calmly smiled and pulled Yudhir onto the bed where he had been lying. The moment was so fluid that Yudhir didn't even have time to ask why. "Is there anywhere that hurts?" "None." "That can't be." With conviction, Yudhir placed his hand over the exposed chest of Yudhir. Only then did Yudhir realize that dark red marks had spread across his chest. Midway through their operation, he felt a force suddenly breaking through and suspected this might be the reason. How far have they spread?" "Seeing for yourself would be faster than asking me." Kishir picked up a desk mirror nearby. Reflected in the beautifully silvered mirror was a face that looked as bad as a plague patient's. Besides one eye that still shone golden, crimson streaks swelled and spread from his neck to his chin. Yudhir finally understood Kishir's reaction. "It does look serious, but I assure you, it doesn't hurt. Really. See, it's fading." The pain he had felt in his eyes and body had disappeared as if it were a lie as soon as everything was over. All that remained was an afterglow. Moreover, the dark red marks that had extended to his chin was subtly fading, promising to subdue to its previous level if left alone. However, Kishir seemed reluctant to judge the situation just by his words. Smiling after hearing the explanation, he immediately opened the drawer of a dresser and took out a resplendent ruby holy symbol and a purification stone, both of which were familiar. "This is..." "Priest Lusan is not here now." Kishir, the only one who could wield divine power, wound the gold chain attached to the holy symbol around his bare arm and tugged it tightly. He handled the precious artifact so casually it might have been considered sacrilegious, but Yudhir was the only other person present. To Kishir, his body was far more important than an historic relic. Would it really be okay to use divine power right after the experiment? Just as Yudhir thought he should suggest leaving it be, Kishir reached out and gently patted Yudhir's head. "It's fine. Now stay still." Effectively nullifying Yudhir's concerns, Kishir held the purification stone and poured his divine power into it. The stone glowed softly, and as he held it against Yudhir's skin, a refreshing sensation began to sweep through his body. The pain he'd felt when he'd first used it was completely absent this time. On the contrary, it felt as if strength was gradually returning to his weary body. After a while, the dark red veins that had spread across Yudhir's body had mostly faded, just as he'd expected. Rather than diminishing, they seemed to be absorbed deeper into his flesh. Only after most of the dark red energy had disappeared did Kishir finally cease using his divine power. By that point, almost 10 extremely expensive purification stones had been reduced to useless rocks. ... The man examining Yudhir's face set down the last purification stone he'd been holding and released the spell. A moment of silence passed as his gaze seemed to scrutinize the results. Yudhir was about to reflexively apologize, but then remembered advice he had received in the West, which warned him not to diminish a just decision with a momentary apology. He closed his mouth. It was clear that Kishir was shocked by what had happened. However, Yudhir didn't regret what he'd done. That didn't mean he had forgotten his promise to continue cooperating with Kishir. Kishir too must have known this. and his decision to use the purification stones was likely his own way of settling his startled feelings and concerns. Therefore, Ydir felt he should also make an effort to understand Kishir's actions. Ydir felt that something more needed to be said than just assuring he was all right. After a moment lost in thought, Ydir spoke first. I did say I would immediately stop if it seemed like a problem would arise, but it seems that the criteria were weighed too heavily towards you. ... So I think it would be a good idea to have a mirror beside us during these kind of events, so we can quickly check any changes in our bodies. Alright. Instead of apologizing, Ydir spoke these words and held a mirror. Only then did Kishir smile again. The smile that traced the corners of his lips and slightly furrowed his brows was different from the beautiful one he displayed just moments before. But this one felt more natural and conveyed a more genuine emotion. Good idea. Kishir grasped the hand that held the mirror. Although he couldn't quite put it into words, Ydir felt that Kishir also understood the meaning behind his words in that moment. It felt as if they had exchanged something invisible. Ydir, shall we postpone our nighttime stroll? No, as long as you're not tired, I'm fine. Alright, let's go then. After another bath, Ydir put on the clothes that Kishir had provided. The casual clothing with a hood that was good for covering the face fit Ydir surprisingly well. When Ydir asked where he'd found such new-looking clothes, Kishir replied that he'd prepared a few sets just in case for days like today. Days like today. The phrase seemed to have multiple meanings. Using a magic tool to change his face, Kishir led the way through deserted streets, ghost-like, before finally heading into the bustling nightlife of the 7th Wall district. Drunks, seemingly enjoying the night, were seated at outdoor tables set up outside bars, loudly singing songs. The night's quite chilly, yet they are in high spirits. Just as he was about to pass by, Ydir heard a familiar voice among the drunkards. Everyone, stop drinking now. If you drink any more, you'll pass out before you even get to Stiber's house. Ah, Gakane, what's that? Need more booze? Fine, one more bottle, please. No, I said no. ... Astonishingly, they were members of the cavalry. Gakane Bulanwal was busy patting their backs and shoulders, trying to recruit at least one person while the familiar, though not particularly close members laughed and drank. Gakane seemed keen on stopping them from drinking any more, but his attempt was thwarted when a new bottle of liquor made its appearance from within the establishment. Ah, look at those familiar faces, Ydir mumbled softly, seemingly realizing who Gakane was looking at. Want to join them? No, I'm considering strengthening our training schedule once the vacation ends. Drinking was fine, but one should never lose oneself in it. Most members knew their limits even when inebriated, but those hanging out with Gakane were notorious for their love of alcohol among the members. It might not be a problem now, but it could be in the future. The best way to teach self-control was through training. A bigger smile spread across Kishir's changed expression, perhaps sensing the sincerity in Ydir's words. Reassuring, he said. They walked past a tavern where Gakane and the members were seated, heading deeper into a darker alley. The noise faded, gradually replaced by darkness and silence. Kishir continued to stride confidently, as if he knew exactly where he was going. Ydir was a bit curious about where this walk would ultimately lead, but he silently followed behind. And finally, crossing a certain alley, something they had seen before revealed itself. It was a broad wall filled with numerous sword marks.